It's the Scotty Myers Show.
Hey, welcome to this week's episode of the Scotty Myers Show. Hopefully you're having a fantastic week so far, and hopefully the weather is really good in your area. In mine, it has been nothing but rain and cold. It feels nothing like the spring that we're supposed to have, so it's been kind of drab and a little depressing, to be totally honest. It's actually starting to weigh on my conscience and my mental health a little bit. But we shall push through. I am also in the middle of a little bit of reno hell in the home. We had painting being done. We're ripping apart our bathroom. Like right now, there's no light in our bathroom. And there is something fun about peeing in the dark, wondering exactly where it's going. You're just hoping that you hear water on water. But you never know, especially sometimes late in the morning. Can be a fun game, but we're in the middle of that. Anybody that's ever done home renos knows when you're in the middle of it, you just want it to be done. Just want it to be over. At this point, I'm at the point where I would pay anybody any amount of money if they could snap their fingers and it would be finished, and then we would have a bathroom again with a light and a shower. That's the other thing I don't have right now, a shower. So I've had to go to the gym just to shower, which I don't think is why I pay a membership. I don't think that they like that, but I walk in and I'll grab a towel, I'll do that. And then 5 minutes later, I'm walking out. Thanks. Getting very odd looks from the front desk people. Like today I had to do it and I went in and I was like, oh man, they're going to give me that odd look again. So I got there like an extra 20 minutes earlier than I had to, just so I could stretch. Do a little bit of 20-minute yoga. Today wasn't like a big workout day, so it was like a little bit of yoga just so that they don't think I'm literally just here to shower, even though that's all I was doing. So we're working our way through that. Let's get into some of the crazy things that have happened through the week that has passed since we've last chatted. We had this product that was out in the States for a while, but it's finally come to Canada. I don't know who was really asking for it, to be totally honest, but it's called Mayo Chip. It's a mix of mayonnaise and ketchup. And nobody did any research when they released this here in Canada, because Mayo Chip is very close to somewhat of an insult in the Cree language, which was brought up to Heinz and the Kraft Corporation. They were like, hey, just a heads up, your Mayo Chip means shithead, roughly, in Cree. Which kind of fits if you're buying this, to be totally honest, because it is not an appealing color whatsoever. It kind of looks like dried jizz in a jar, is really what it looks like. And even just the combo in my mind sounds a little disgusting. But I get it. Some people like mayo and ketchup mixed together. So now Heinz has to rename it something else. I would assume they haven't said for sure that they're going to rename the thing, but I mean, you can't have somebody going, hey, did you get that new order of shit face in? So I have a feeling they're going to rename it. In my mind, the easy thing is just it's mayonnaise and ketchup. So just ketchup-naise. Hopefully that doesn't mean something terrible in another language. Or just call it too lazy to get two things out of the fridge, because that's really what it is. It's a sad state on how lazy we've become with our condiments. Another thing making news this week is kind of what happens to us after we die. There's really only a couple of popular and legal options when we shuffle off this mortal coil. You can either be put in a coffin and, buried, or you can be burnt up and then your ashes are usually put in an urn and left on a mantle and nobody ever dusts you, that type of thing. The problem is neither of those solutions are actually very environmentally friendly. The cremation, which you would think doesn't hurt the environment that much, puts out a lot of gas when they're burning you up, so not great for the environment. And then, of course, the caskets and stuff like that, they're designed, especially like the higher end ones, to like never break down, preserve your body at all costs type thing. But it's a metal and plastics and chemicals being put into the ground that either stay there forever and never break down, so kind of impedes growth of plants and whatnot, or they're cheap and they do break down and they mess up the soil that you're buried in. Which, I mean, it's not like there's a lot of construction going on in cemeteries, but still, you know what I'm saying. There is now a new method that is close to becoming legal in a lot of places in the States that is environmentally friendly and actually kind of interesting. It's human composting. And so what this is it was the brainchild of a girl by the name of Katrina Spade. And she started thinking about alternative burial methods. And what she came up with was you take the body, you put it in a tank with basically some like wood chips and alfalfa and straw. All those materials help speed up the decomposition process. And then in a few weeks, what's left is basically about a cubic yard of soil, not unlike compost that you would go buy at, any garden center, basically. And then you can throw that soil into your backyard, and it would act as fertilizer for plants. So in a way, you could take that soil, go in your backyard, plant a tree in it, and a tree would grow, and that tree would, help the environment, but then at the same time be a constant reminder of the loved one. I actually really like this idea. I'm not saying I'm up for it. I've left my wife very specific instructions on what to do with me after I die. I am to have a Jedi funeral where, they just basically build a giant fire outside and burn you up. Which is not legal, but I've told her she has to do this. And also the second part is she has to collect my ashes and then spread them at Disney World. Also not legal, but she married me. This was for better or for worse, till death do us part. This is what she's got to do for me. So, and I know people have said to me, why do you want to get dumped at Disney World? They just vacuum you up. That's fine. It's still a vacuum at Disney World, which is better than a vacuum anywhere else. So I'm okay with that. But human composting, they have introduced bills in some states to make it legal. Right now, it would still be illegal. But if it becomes legal, a great environmentally friendly way to get rid of our deceased loved ones. And if you do the whole using it as fertilizer and that, obviously, the more full of shit your loved one was, the better the plant will grow. On to our offs story of the week. Offs, of course, standing for oh, for fuck's sakes. This one, not a news story. It's a promo for a TV show. I'm watching HGTV with my wife, and a promo comes on for a new show. And there's a ton of home renovation shows. Obviously, it's home and garden television, but they're all kind of the same, right? Somebody buys a new house, or they look at 2 or 3 houses, they pick one, and then the construction people and the design people go in, make it beautiful, and they can't believe that the house that they bought for $30,000 is now worth $500,000. It's a very simple formula. This one, though, takes a new spin on home renos and what they can do for you. It's called Unspose My House. And the whole concept behind this is if you've been recently dumped or broken up with your significant other and you're heartbroken, things just aren't going your way now, they will come in, redo, I'm assuming just a room in your home. I haven't seen the show yet. And that's going to make everything better. Like this relationship that you put years and time and effort and all those things into, somebody comes in, throws a coat of paint on the wall, and everything's fine. Everything's good. I just don't see how this is good. And I can't wait to see the people on this show. These heartbroken people that suddenly, because their kitchen just got renovated, now they're over it. Oh, that person that I gave 10 years of my life to. Oh, now I have a new kitchen. It was all worth it. I was trying to to wrap my head around this as a good idea for a TV show, and I just can't. The whole promo just made me scream offs numerous times. If you're ever flipping the channels, put on HGTV. You may be lucky enough to catch it. On to the geek news of the week. It was a little bit of a busy week. Of course, last Sunday we had the Game of Thrones finale. I'm sure you've been online, seen the fan backlash. There's been backlash to this entire season, obviously. A lot of people not very happy with the final season of Game of Thrones. And I don't want to spoil it. If you haven't seen it, you probably should have by now if it means that much to you. But still, I'll be nice. I won't spoil it. I'll just say it wasn't so much that the season finale was a bad episode. It was just a bad episode for the season and series finale. It's like this was basically 8 seasons, about 10 years in the making. And really all we got was a lot of people sitting around talking politics. It was like dinner time at the seniors' home. Bunch of people sitting around, spouting their mouths off over who they think should be running things. This is really kind of what it boiled down to. So for a show that gave us so many great battles and so many legendary moments, to go out like that was a bit of a letdown. It was just very anticlimactic. It had been building, and then maybe that was on purpose. I don't know, but to myself and a lot of fans, it was just not what we were hoping for in the finale of Game of Thrones. In some Star Wars news, Lucasfilm's president, Kathleen Kennedy, has been talking recently. She did an interview with Vanity Fair, and she was talking about the spin-offs. We had a couple. We had the Solo, Rogue One, and Solo did not do very well financially at the box office. I stand by Solo and say it was a really good movie. And the more I think about Solo, the more I enjoyed it. I left the theater with a big, stupid grin on my face, which is what I want out of a Star Wars movie. And my take is that it didn't do that well because it came out so close to The Last Jedi, which was divisive to be kind. Not everybody loved The Last Jedi, myself included. That was the first time I walked out of a Star Wars movie without a big, stupid grin on my face. So I think that bad taste people had in their mouths affected Solo's box office. So Kathleen Kennedy has kind of said, well, we can't make it a factory. We can't do what Marvel does. We've got to kind of build new franchises around maybe new characters. Things need to evolve differently. And by saying all that, she's kind of said, you know what? Maybe some of these side movies that we were going to make and spin-off movies are a great idea. And I kind of disagree with her. I mean, one a year, yeah, that's too many. We don't need a Star Wars movie every year. It does take the kind of special feeling of seeing a Star Wars movie in the theater away. But there are a lot of these spin-off films that were rumored that I want to see. And I think a lot of other Star Wars fans want to see them. I want to see Ewan McGregor be Obi-Wan again. Obi-Wan's got tons of tales to tell that we don't know about. Give us that. Give us the Boba Fett movie. There's lots of... Give us a Yoda movie. There's lots of characters that are fresh for mining stories from. We don't need to go to the same characters over and over again. And we don't need a Star Wars movie every year. But I think shelving some of these would be a bad idea. Give us some of these characters that we love in new stories and we will turn out for them. But don't release one a year, and especially don't release one, it was like 3 months after another Star Wars movie, because that is overkill. So I'm crossing my fingers that some of these movies aren't dead, but it kind of sounds like they are. Shifting gears to Marvel, the internet's been full of petitions lately, right? There's people petitioning Game of Thrones to remake the entire 8th season, which is not going to happen. This one's kind of fun, and in a sick way, I would like to see it happen. The internet has started a petition to have Danny DeVito be cast as Wolverine in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. With Disney buying Fox, that gives them all the rights back to the X-Men characters and the Fantastic Four. So we're going to see these characters worked in to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the timing is perfect after the events of Endgame to be able to bring in some fan favorites like Wolverine is really going to help the MCU out a lot. Of course, they're going to recast everybody. I think the Danny DeVito thing is just hilarious, but there's a sick part of me that would like to see Danny DeVito as Wolverine. In no way would it ever work, but it would be hilarious. And I think the MCU should do it just for like some sort of flash scene. Like somebody's having a dream and it's Danny DeVito as Wolverine. I just want to see DeVito have the claws come out of his hands. That'd be amazing. James Gunn is talking about his Suicide Squad movie and not really giving us any answers in a weird way. He's been doing some press for the Brightburn movie that he's a part of, and people were asking him about Suicide Squad. And one question that came up, which I think everybody's asked a little bit, is this a reboot or is it a sequel? And he said, these terms, they're all so narrow. There's so many terms. It is what it is. You'll see it in 2 years when it comes out, which is fair enough. But when you're bringing in the same characters played by the same actors and actresses, I think it's okay to say it's a sequel. I know maybe he doesn't want to because there is some bad feelings about the first Suicide Squad movie, but it's okay. Just call it a sequel. We can't wait to see it. It comes out August 6, 2021. Believe me, I've got that date circled on my calendar. And yes, I have made a calendar for movies like that. Leave me alone. And of course, one of the biggest stories of the week, sticking with DC news, was Robert Pattinson is Batman. Now, here's the thing. This story broke and hit the internet like it was fact. That Robert Pattinson had signed on the dotted line and that he is going to be the Dark Knight in Matt Reeves' The Batman movie. After that story broke and you read a few more stories, it's not a done deal yet. He definitely is the front runner, but there are still a couple of other names being bandied about at Warner Brothers to take on the cape and cowl. It just seems like right now Robert Pattinson is the guy that they're leaning towards, but they are going through what they are referring to as a heavy vetting process before they name the next Batman. They feel like they rushed it with Ben Affleck. They just found out he was willing to do it and were like, oh my God, Ben Affleck wants to be Batman. Make it happen. And this time they're kind of taking their time, not committing so fast. I guess maybe not trying to look quite so desperate. But the internet had a field day with it. A lot of people shitting on the idea of Robert Pattinson being Batman. I'm on board. I've seen this guy in other things. I haven't seen a Twilight movie, so I can't talk about his sparkly vampire days. But I've seen him in a few other films, and kid's a good actor. He's like 32, 33. He would be the youngest person to ever be Batman on screen, and that would fit what the story is supposed to be, rumored to be for Matt Reeves' Batman movie, that it is a young Batman early on in his career. So his age is right there. He does have some name power to bring to the role, but at the same time, this isn't an overpowering name. It's not like a Ben Affleck name. Like, love him or hate him, Ben is a huge star. And I'm not saying Robert Pattinson's not a star, but just maybe not on the same level as Ben Affleck. I think the casting would be fantastic. I'm on board. But let me preface that by saying I'd be on board no matter who they cast as Batman. It could be Danny DeVito as Batman, and I would be on board just because I love Batman so much. I'm willing to give anybody a chance under the cape and cowl. When I was a kid and Michael Keaton was cast, I was 12 years old and I didn't think he was going to do a good job, and he knocked it out of the park. Heath Ledger as the Joker, I didn't think that was going to work out, and it worked out fantastically. So I will give anybody a chance. He just better not fuck it up. And I think Warner knows they can't have him fuck it up, which is why it's taking so long. But I would expect we'll get an official announcement My guess is going to be Comic-Con. They're not just going to release that on the internet. There's going to be a big to-do when they announce who the next Batman will be. And I can't think of a better place than San Diego Comic-Con. So we're all just going to kind of have to wait until then to find out. That will do it for this week's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks to everybody that has subscribed so far. If you haven't subscribed yet, just do so wherever you get your podcast. Give us a rating and review too. It helps promote the show. And don't forget, you can find us and the show online on all the social media platforms, Instagram, The Scotty Mars Show, The Scotty Mars Show on Facebook, at Scotty Mars on Twitter. If you ever have a comment, question, anything like that, just message me on any of those platforms and I will get right back to you. And until we speak again, have a great week.